Okay, so I just got through watching a new episode of Futurama. Yeah, my hands. I watched them too much. I just got through watching a new episode of Futurama entitled "I Know What You Did Last Christmas." And this episode has impressed me multiple times over. The biggest reason, though, you see it in the top right corner there, and I probably said something in the video. It answered probably my biggest question since the show was announced to be coming back. What about Kwanzabot? How will they address the Kwanzabot? Now, if we go back in history on how Matt Groening has done this, how he's addressed this, the OG Mr. Burns, he's no longer with us, but the character is still on the show today, on The Simpsons, right? Somebody else has been doing the voice since we lost the OG Mr. Burns back in '96. He was never written off or anything. Lunch Lady Doris, as voiced by the late great Doris Crow, they wrote her off for years and years, but then brought her back a few years ago. Now voiced by, I think, Tress MacNeille. Bleeding Nose, remember, they wrote him off beautifully, like right before we lost Ron Taylor. But he comes back and show up first, voiced by someone else. You got Mr. Krabappel, they wrote her off beautifully. You haven't seen her since. Troy McClure and Lionel Hutch written off beautifully. You haven't seen them since. Mr. Krabappel voiced by the late great Marcia Wallace. Troy McClure and Lionel Hutch, two of my favorite characters, voiced by the late great Phil Hartman. Kwanzabot was voiced by Coolio, who we lost last year, around this time last year actually. And so that's what my biggest question: what will they do about Kwanzabot? Will we see him again? Will somebody else take over? Like, usually Matt Groening will write off a character, but I've noticed he likes to bring back those characters after a long while. Yeah, he's not going to touch Troy McClure or Lionel Hutch, but other characters. He probably won't touch Mr. Krabappel, but those other characters I mentioned. So I was kind of, I don't know, scared. But then I watched this episode, not expecting for Kwanzabot to show up. Voiced by Coolio. And he gave us one last song. And if that were enough, see the picture? You see the thumbnail? They sent him flying into the sunset in space. They wrote him off beautifully. And this was the cap off. Cherry on top to an episode that was so good. Now, I haven't talked about the episodes up until this point, largely because they've been okay. Not really worth me talking about. Yes, they're addressed in past timelines, making references. That's great and everything, but what's new? This episode might be the first one that's actually truly amazing. Like, this is the Futurama that we know and love from the first 2 or 3 seasons, okay? Yes, the episode with Kiff and Amy's kids was great. We waited 20 years for it. It was okay. It was good. Good episode. Probably the best of the season up until this one. So what happens is the professor creates a time machine, and its design is one off of an old time machine from back in the day. Like, if you've seen Gremlins 2, and there's a reference to it, so there's a giant disc in the background, and you got a pedal on it, the Big Bang Theory reference to it. It's modeled after that. So there's a reference there. And he goes back and he takes a coin and he flips it on a switch, because that's what's wrong with them. Stuck in it on everybody's naughty instead of nice. And he goes back in time, he flips the switch, comes back, and then they all go out and celebrate with their families. And I've been waiting since, hell, the pilot, for Farnsworth to call Fry Uncle Fry, and he did. You're like, Uncle Fry, you want to come hang with us this Christmas? I'm like, whoa. But later's like, you're supposed to come hang with my family and meet them. Well, he's met them, but he did leave a good impression, which I beg to differ. They like Fry from what I've seen. And then everybody else goes off to their families with, you got Hermes and his family, La Barbara and their son. all of them could limbo. I knew the son could limbo. I didn't know the barber could. You got the Wongs, Amy, Kiff, all the kids, which I guess the grandparents now like, because when they first appeared the kids, they're like, no. Which leads me to one of my concerns, right? Because some of the voices have been changed. Some of them for obvious reasons, like the voice of Amy's father is now voiced by an actual Asian man. And one of my thoughts on that, I did a whole video. It's called Mike Henry Steps Down to Cleveland. You'll know the video, believe me. That thumbnail, you'll know the video. If you want to know my thoughts on that whole deal. He does a fine job. He's okay. Slight differences. Hermie's son's voiced by Phil Lamar, actually. I think he was originally voiced by Bumper Robinson. I don't know what happened. I like Bumper Robinson. So I was like, they're going to replace Khalil. They didn't, thankfully. But yeah, and then you got you got Bender and Zoidberg. There have been some interesting pairings this season. By far, this is the biggest head scratcher. Because neither one of them have families, except they do. Like, Zoidberg has an uncle somewhere. And Bender has Flexo and his mother somewhere. And he also has an uncle and a cousin somewhere. But I digress. But yeah. So they're there at the Planet Express by themselves. Bender wants nothing to do with Zoidberg. And Zoidberg is being Zoidberg, real sad, in his dumpster. He comes back with some kind of eggnog that is so strong they get drunk before they even drink it. Like, oh yeah, I said mentioned before this, somebody's leaving notes. I know what you did last Christmas. Right? And again, someone leaves another one. I still know what you did last Christmas, which would have been enough, right? Someone leaves a third note, and it reads, I'll always know what you did last Christmas, or Xmas, how they say it. And it's written in, but look to me blood. I'm so impressed that they reference all three of those movies. Most people would have been touched the third one, for good reason. They reference all three of them. I like that. They also reference how Fry is his own grandfather. This is right after Zoidberg called him Uncle Fry. Because somebody's like, Zoidberg, you're going to go back in time and he's like, oh my, yes. Someone can come back, their own grandfather looks right at Fry's eye, and he's like, it happens. And literally everyone, myself included, is like, no, it doesn't. So yeah. And so yeah, they go back in time. Father did, he flips it, they have them split off. You got Zoidberg and Bender, and they come back to get drunk, and they have this idea to go back in time and kidnap Santa for whatever reason, and they do. And just the interaction you see with all the families reminds you of those first 2 or 3 seasons, man. Just all of that. Even though Fry's like, this is the best Christmas since I got Frozen. I think I have to agree. Like, this is the best Christmas episode since that first one with John Goodman was the voice of Robot Santa. This time around, it sounded like John DiMaggio. He's been a different voice in his appearances. They never got John Goodman back, which is a damn shame. He was so good as Robot Santa. I digress. But yeah, so they kidnap Santa. And they try everything, hanging him in the meat locker. He burst out. They try cutting him up and melting him with acid. Finally, they just take him apart. And by this point, everybody's come back because they were like, wait, where's Zoidberg and Bender? They're not with you? No, I thought they were with you. They all come back. And Zoidberg goes, bah humbug, because of course he does. But then they let him in, and everybody's having a good time. No one notices that everything they're using, their utensils, their cups, that's Robot Santa. And literally, out of nowhere, Bender and Zoidberg come back again, through time, kidnap Santa, and they're out. And then they realize that they did what they were trying to do this whole time. And they got Santa. And they're called heroes, but then they're like, well, who's some blackmailing this? It was Robot Santa from last Christmas blackmailing them because Zoidberg and Bender are friends, and Bender didn't want that getting out. Episode ends, but not really. It cuts to Kwanzabot doing one last Christmas Kwanzaa song, my mistake, as performed by Coolio, and it leads to this beautiful tribute here you see. And I'm not doing any justice to this episode describing it to you. It is by far the highlight of the season, man. It really is. It really captures the really good writing, dramatic moments of the first 2-3 seasons, right? Seamlessly mixed with the comedy. Like, my goodness. I mean, they've been just calling Calculon, and Calculon's like, how'd you get this number? Bender's like, I don't. I'm just telling every single number. Calculon's like, it's all harder to change up. Because remember, they were had a partnership way back when. But yeah, like, so many good. This episode is easily the best episode thus far. The best Christmas episode since the first one. Beautiful send off to Coolio and Kwanzabot. And like, one thing I didn't mention is the progression. I mentioned that Amy and Kif, their kids, they're here now. It's been 20 years, like they said. They have kids. From toddlers to teenagers. They got like 3, 4, 5 kids, something like that, because the others didn't survive. And you got Fry and Leela are actually officially a thing. They moved in with each other. You got all this. I love it so much. Usher Cubert's almost cut up like a turducken. I guess he saved the last second. Also, what in the world is the fascination with turducken? The whole episode, every single family's making their version of turducken. They got that once, and I was like, no, I don't get. What is that? I don't. But yeah, this was really, really a beautiful episode. I decided to make this video, and see, I can make fun, happy videos, but rest in peace, Coolio. That was a beautiful tribute. It really was. Thank you for watching.